was a time when I was unhappy. I don't understand, the man said. I still think that being loved is most important. Auntie leaned forward and asked, "Tell me, have you ever really felt loved enough by anyone?" To give the man his privacy, his aunt didn't wait for answer. "My wanting to be loved," she continued, "worse yet, my needing to be loved, had one very big drawback." What was that? "My wanting or needing to be loved depended totally upon someone outside myself. Before I knew better, I gave up taking care of myself. I simply asked someone else to do the job. And the irony was, I wasn't taking care of myself in the most important area of my life, love. I was like most people. I wanted to be loved, and I had a certain mental picture of how that should feel for me. Then I compared my picture against how well I thought the other person was loving me. I guess I unconsciously always give them a grade." The man smiled and said, "It's amazing how often they fail." "They fail?" Auntie asked. The man thought for a moment. Auntie continued, "Whenever I used to focus on my need to be loved by someone else, I soon felt unloved." The man had an instant insight. He didn't know why he had never seen it before. He said slowly, as the realization came to him, "And when you felt unloved, you began to act unloving." "Sure," Auntie said. "I used to get hurt because I felt I wasn't loved. So I would withdraw or get angry. And as you acted in an unloving manner," the man noted, "it became more difficult for someone to love you." The more he thought about what he was hearing, the more the man began to see other way of looking at love. "Maybe," he said, "there is a better way to take care of myself." Auntie laughed with the light-heartedness of someone who was happy. "Now I spend less time trying to be loved by others," she said, "and more time loving others. I've learned so much about taking care of myself from your uncle that I can now help him take better care of himself, and we enjoy each other more." "What do you do to help take care of uncle?" "Many things," Auntie answered. "For example, sometimes when he is being too hard on himself, I remind him to care more for himself. I know that I feel best when I accept myself," she said, "and I encourage uncle to do the same. I remind him that more we each accept ourselves, the more we enjoy ourselves and each other." "How does uncle react to that?" "Almost always he appreciates it because he soon starts to treat himself better. Then he feels better. Sometimes, though, when he's not quite ready to get off his own back, he will say, 'Maybe I can rent a saddle, strap it on my back, and be more comfortable.' Of course, as soon as we start laughing," she said, "or at least smiling, things get better. First for him, then for us." The man liked what he felt in his aunt's presence. She felt so good about herself, she made him feel good too. Then his mind challenged the idea once again. "Don't tell me," the man began, "that there are not times when what we want to do for yourself doesn't clash with what he wants." He was surprised to hear the hostility in his voice and was a little embarrassed about speaking to his aunt this way, but he wanted to know. "Of course," she said, "but that's true in any case, as uncle says. The truth is, people are eventually going to do what they want to do anyway, so why kid ourselves?" If you give up and do what the other person wants against your own best interest, sooner or later you're going to be resentful. And then it is only a question of time before you, consciously or unconsciously, find a way to get back at other person. I know it sounds terrible, Auntie said, but it's truth. When you bury your own self interest in the favor of someone else, especially if you are not aware of it, it festers and things usually get worse. So we avoid a larger problem later on by each of us taking care of ourselves now. We do this by communicating and negotiating to help both of us get what we want. So, man said, the whole idea is to first to feel good yourself, even if it doesn't totally please the other person at the moment. And then as you feel happy and peaceful, go on to feel good about the other person. Yes, Auntie said. And the important thing is when you feel good about the other person, show it. It will be in their best interest, and that is what they are interested in. When uncle encourages and supports me to take care of myself, I show him a lot of ways to how much I appreciate it. The man wondered if it wasn't too good to be true. But conflicts are bound to occur. What do you do? Auntie agreed. It doesn't mean that there is not going to be conflict. There is. But by honestly taking care of yourself as well as the other person, you avoid larger conflicts with other person later. Uncle and I have conflicts. We don't always like it when the other person is taking care of himself. Sometimes when we are feeling a little insecure, we feel as though we are being shut out. But in the middle of feeling insecure, we often go inside ourselves and quietly ask, is there a better way right now for me to be taking care of me? When we do, we usually see that the other person is just doing what they need to do themselves and will come back to us feeling good about themselves and about us. Uncle, I, Uncle and I are happy together, Auntie said. We have each found a way to take wonderful care of ourselves. And I guess we really appreciate the other person's helping us to do so and rewarding us when we do. We like who we are when we are with one another. The man said, that reminds me of Elizabeth Barrett Browning, the poet who wrote, I love you, not so much for what you are as for what I am when I am with you. Auntie clapped her hands and said, what more I can say? It had been almost 2 months since the man had visited his aunt. He had already begun to put to use what he had learned. I'm glad to see you, Uncle said, as his favorite nephew entered his home again. I understand you had a good walk talks some time ago with Auntie. Yes, the man said. She sure is a great lady. I agree, Uncle said. She's quite a woman. Did you learn anything from her? I know I always do. The man said, I've learned that she thinks you now have a great relationship with her. That's true, Uncle said. But did she tell you it wasn't always that way? Yes, she did. It has encouraged me to change what I was doing wrong with my wife and the children. I must admit, we are all getting along better. But, the man continued, I am not sure I understand. Why does each person taking better care of himself or herself help our relationship? I've always thought that was kind of selfish, would cause problems. Uncle said, let me explain with an example from your own life. You mentioned that since you spoke with Auntie, you've begun to change what you do with your family. Can you tell me how you have changed? Yes, the man answered. Last night I came home tired from a rough day at office. Both men smiled at cliche. Then something small almost ruined the evening. Re- ruined the evening. What happened? Uncle wanted to know. I wanted to be greeted when I came home in a way that let me know that I was appreciated. Uncle anticipated, but you were not? Well, the man said, I didn't feel appreciated. Wife barely said hello. So I walked off alone. I felt bad. I must have been pretty tired to have reacted as I did. But as I played the scene over again in my mind, I'm afraid I just felt sorry for myself. Then the mind smiled. I asked myself, is there a better way for me to be reacting? The man continued, I realized that my wife didn't say it with much enthusiasm, and but she did say hello, dear. She didn't say hello, jerk. Uncle laughs. You heard the dare. Yes. And that made me feel better. It turned out to be enjoyable night at home. What did he do? I remembered what Auntie had said. Even more important than by being loved is by being loving. I just decided, the man said, to take better care of myself by loving her instead of asking her to love me. I thought it would make me feel better, and it did. I went out and gave her a hug and told her I was happy to be home. I told her I loved her. She liked it, and then she said she was sorry. She was so tired. From a rough day, Uncle said with a smile. You've got it, the man said. She probably hadn't been taking very good care of herself either that day.